G'day legends. So last afternoon. It was on at 6 a.m. in the morning for us here in Australia, but it was all worth it. UFC Apex card once again in the warehouse. It was a fun card. Once again, the UFC is proving to us that if you just put together a decent MMA scrap, even if you do put it in an MMA warehouse, it will still generally be a fun time because MMA is inherently fun. Take notice, PFL. How are you screwing things up so badly? MMA on its own is just great. There were 11 fights on the card, so it wasn't a overly stacked Apex card. There were quite a lot of finishes. It felt like even though the card started early, there wasn't a lot of padding. Everything just sort of flowed together nice. Now, the co-main event being cancelled and then rebooked does make it seem like Paul Craig is going to be living another day on the UFC roster without being assassinated by the roster tracker on Twitter. This is all done purely by circumstance, but that's just the way that some people's career in the UFC go. You know, some people, they don't make it on the Contender Series, and then you need a short fight night replacement, and bang, they're in the UFC. And some people are Paul Craig. They are destined to be fired come Monday morning, and through an illness of their opponent, they get to stay. So well done to Paul Craig on keeping your job for yet another day, mate. We're very, very proud of you. Let us talk about the main event. Gilbert Burns versus Mijail Morales. Now, Michael Morales. What was that sort of pronunciation? Michael Morales. Gilbert Burns has given up. He has truly given up, and he quit in the cage. Now, I understand. There's so many things that are annoying about that sentence. So many things. Number one, how dare you say that, bloke just sitting there in a chair watching the fights? Why don't you get in the cage and scrap about it? How dare you say Gilbert Burns quit? I understand. I completely understand the irony of it. What I saw as a long-time MMA fan was I saw a veteran who quit. Now, the other part that is really annoying about that sentence is Gilbert Burns is a veteran. I love Gilbert Burns. We've been watching Gilbert Burns for such a long time. He's amazing. Was amazing. That guy's dead now. The guy that was amazing is dead now. It sucks. What's so horrible about these kind of stoppages is that you know Gilbert Burns is a veteran. And because he's a veteran, and because he understands MMA so well, he knows how to stop a fight or quit in a fight in a very smart way without getting a lot of damage. And that's what he did. The shield went up, the shots came through the guard. He went for a Hail Mary single leg, very similar to Bo Nickel with his Hail Mary swinging. And then he just went and curled up again. It was a very Anthony Smith-esque defense. It was an Anthony Smith-esque stoppage, a quitter's stop, like someone who just wanted the fight to be over. It sucks, man. It sucks to see Gilbert Burns do that, man. It's a Donald Cerrone-esque stoppage, you know? A Brian Stan-esque stoppage, if I can. Just someone in there who's just been a vet and doesn't want to be in there anymore, and it sucks to see. And with his strategy of what was going in there in the fight, you know, Gilbert has said that he needed to win this fight. He knew where his career was at. So I was thinking that maybe Gilbert would go in there with some passion and some drive and some want to win the fight. But what did you see from Gilbert Burns? You know, where was opening up with the jab? I didn't see that. I saw Gilbert Burns rushing in with big meaty hooks, not really sitting behind a jab and being tactical. I saw him trying to get off some grappling, but he didn't really have any success with it. And it's not like this is, you know, oh, Gilbert Burns, he was a lightweight, now he's a welterweight. Gilbert Burns is truly a welterweight. He looks nice and thick for the welterweight division. However, Morales just towered over him, and you know, for this kid, Michael Morales, this young man, like he is a kid in welterweight, right? He was talking about how backstage before the fight, he was so nervous. I tell you what, if he didn't say that after the fight, you would not have known that this dude was nervous at all. He looked calm, collected. When Gilbert Burns was in there trying to get his grappling off, Morales just had this look of absolute serenity on his face, that he knew that he was going to be okay, and he knew he was going to be able to get out of it. And then once he did get out of it, he just exploded all over Gilbert Burns. No Jones. But you know what I'm saying. And he looked great, and Gilbert did it. And then we get to the end of the fight, and I'm wondering, is Gilbert Burns going to hang up his gloves right there in the cage? And a few things are going through my head. Number one, Gilbert, are you going to hang up right there in the cage? And is the UFC going to have a package ready? Gilbert Burns is on a bunch of losses. He's 38 years old. This is it. He's the main event. He's at the Apex, the home of the UFC. I'm sure he knows people that work for the company, that they're all there. And I'm just waiting for Gilbert Burns to hang the gloves up. I'm wondering, is he going to do it or isn't he? And then the next thing I'm wondering is, if he does do it, is the UFC finally going to get their shit together and have a package ready so that we can have a little bit of a goodbye Gilbert Burns moment? We don't get to find out. Gilbert Burns doesn't retire. Why not? I don't know. Is he going to have one more fight night in Brazil, maybe, against somebody? Maybe. Is he going to stay in the UFC, keep losing and just keep collecting paychecks because why not? And keep doing his podcast with Moicano and eventually just try and get into pivoting that podcast into a crypto podcast? I don't know. I don't know what Gilbert Burns is thinking. I don't know. But then on the flip side, of course, of that is Morales looked great. He looked great. And to me, with Morales and his age and where he is and how stacked the welterweight division is, there's only one thing that I want to see from Morales next. And that is Colby Covington. But that is obviously not going to happen. If Colby Covington spent all of 2024 ducking Ian Gary, you know, and I know, and the Lord above knows, and Dana White knows, everybody knows, Colby Covington is never going to fight someone like Miles Morales. Why is he in the UFC? Answer me that down there in the comments. Why is Colby Covington in the UFC? Can we please cut him? So if Morales isn't going to get Colby Covington, let's give him Leon Edwards. Why the hell not? Leon Edwards has been tweeting that he's looking for a fight. All right, buddy, you want to fight? Here's a damn good fight for you. Everyone else at welterweight seems to be booked. I think Ian Gary versus Sean Brady is beautiful. I think that fight is absolutely beautiful. Kamaru Usman and Joaquin Buckley is obviously already happening. Bilal is not going to be fighting for quite a while because his face was absolutely destroyed by JDM, built completely different. So let's throw them together like that and let's fire Colby Covington. Why not? Because we know he's ducking. And for the last little bit on this topic, welterweight continues to be the premier division in the UFC. You know, and there's these little stats that were coming out this week about how the UFC lightweight title seems to keep getting vacated, seems to keep getting passed on to somebody who hasn't earned it or really beating the guy that was the guy. And it makes you start to think maybe welterweight is the division in the UFC. You know, the division in the UFC, the premier division, because there is no doubt right now that welterweight, the sun is shining on welterweight. Welterweight is the UFC right now. It is killing it in every way, shape, and form. The division is absolutely perfect, and it's so strange how it's happening at a time where Bilal Muhammad has been defeated and shucked off to the side. Bilal Muhammad feels like this evil comic book character villain, where the second that you get rid of him off the page, the universe just snaps back to green, you know, and the kingdom is saved. Everyone just overnight, through the power of magic, the kingdom is just wonderful. And this has all happened because Bilal Muhammad has finally been defeated. I mean, again, it sucks because Bilal put up such a good fight against JDM, but does it not have that vibe to it? Let's break down some of the other fights on the card, right? Sadiq Yusuff versus Marlon Sanchez. I just wanted to touch on this because a lot of people were picking Sadiq Yusuff, but Sadiq Yusuff, I think he's suffering from that kind of thing where a fighter is too pretty. He looks at his shots too much. He needs things to be perfect. And there just seems to be this move going on in the meta of MMA where it is, you've got to be a bit more of a DDP. Someone who pushes forward and wants the fight and is trying to get the victory versus, say, a Leon Edwards or a Israel Adesanya. One of those guys that likes to sit back on their shots and pick and choose the perfect strikes. You know, Petr Yan suffers from this as well in his losses, where he spends too much time trying to pick the perfect shot and get the right combination rather than just marching forward. Yeah, Sandhagen is another one of these guys that suffer from this. In modern MMA in 2025, you've got to march forward. And I don't know if Sadiq Yusuff has got that fire in him anymore. I don't know if he trusts himself anymore. And he should, because he's a damn good fighter. You know, Sadiq Yusuff has got all the skills, but he's just got to flick that mental switch like Corey Sandhagen. Stop reading about war. Stop worrying about war and be war. Push bloody forward. The other one that I wanted to talk about was Rosaboya versus DeSantos. This was sick. This was an absolutely sick war in rounds 1 and rounds 2. However, I do feel like in the third round, Stoltzfus tried to stall things a little bit. So I'm not upset at the scorecard going 30-27 to Rosaboya. I believe that's what the scorecard was. And everyone was like, oh my God, how did that happen? But from me, what I was seeing, Stoltzfus was just sort of trying not to die in there. And I don't mean that in a way of like, oh, he should have fought harder. He fought great. By the end of the third round, his nose was bloodied. He'd been in that war. I'm sure that he'd given everything that he got. But I'm just saying, in that third round, when he was on top, he wasn't exactly going for savage ground and pound. I think he was a fighter in survival mode, doing everything that he could to stay in there. I'm not saying he was quitting. I'm not saying it was like Brian Stannon quitting. That's not what I'm saying at all. I understand why he was stalling out a little bit in the third round. Julian Arosa versus Costa. This is a sick fight, mate. This is a sick fight. This is one of those ones you need to go back and watch it. I am going to go back and watch it. This is fucking awesome. I don't know how much the UFC is paying these two in the warehouse, but this one is really, really good. And I think with Costa, he's been so active. I think this is his fourth fight this year, or his third fight this year. He's been so active. We need to get him into the UFC rankings, right? Do the thing, find someone coming off a loss, get him into the rankings. And the last fight that I wanted to talk about was, speaking of getting somebody into the rankings. And again, this entire UFC card was great. I'm not going to break down the entire card because the fights just weren't that meaningful, to be honest. But they were good. They were really good. You should definitely go back and watch this card. But the last one that did have a little bit of meaning on it that I do want to talk about before we get out of here, Jared Gordon versus Thiago Moises. Jared Gordon, round one, ground and pound. Yes. Everyone's loving it. Oh, yeah. We're loving it. We're loving seeing Jared Gordon back. Now, look, I know that the lightweight division is stacked and it's not easy to get into the lightweight division. But justice for Jared Gordon, okay? He was robbed in the Paddy Pimblett fight. He was robbed in the Nasrat Haqparast fight. That was a robbery. Jared Gordon was fucking robbed twice. And Bobby Green just headbutted him, bro. That fight's been overturned, by the way. Might not know that, but that fight's been overturned. That was a headbutt. So Jared Gordon, like he said himself, he should be on like a 6-fight win streak or something like that. He knows it. I knows it. You knows it. We all knows it. Jared Gordon needs to get in the rankings. Now, there is someone in the rankings that just had a fight and didn't get a lot of damage in their fight. And his name is Benoit Saint-Denis. The only damage that Benoit Saint-Denis took in the last fight was the damage that he did to himself because of his absolute inability and refusal to wash himself after training. If that dude just had a shower after training, he would be able to fight so much better in life. But he is determined to go into every minute of life either having a staph infection or coming out of having a staph infection. Either way, BSD is in the rankings because of hype alone, and he needs to earn his spot in the rankings. And Jared Gordon is out of the rankings because of bullshit and bullshit alone, and he needs to get himself into the rankings. So Jared Gordon versus BSD in 3 months' time. I don't care when. I don't care. UFC 219, Chicago, Dricus du Plessis, Khamzat Chimaev. Kick off the pay-per-view. Jared Gordon versus BSD. Done. Send it. Put that one on there. Done. Let's justice for Jared Gordon. How old is Jared Gordon? How much time does he have left? UFC Fight Night. 1 second. I'm going right over here. I just want to check. This is called padding. This is my padding song. I could edit this out. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll leave it in. Jared Gordon. He's 36, man. Jared Gordon's 36. This is lightweight. This is lightweight, and he's 36. What have you done to him, UFC? This is an injustice. What? This is so unfair to Jared Gordon, man. Get him in there against BSD this year. We don't have time to fuck around with Jared Gordon's career. He cannot afford to lose. Jared, you're the new Moicano, okay? Moicano, he couldn't afford to lose, and he's made his money, and now him and Gilbert Burns can talk about Squiz Coin or God knows whatever on their podcast for the rest of time. You need to get your shit together. We're getting Jared Gordon in the rankings this year, okay? This year, we're getting Tom Aspinall versus John Jones. We're getting Dana White fired, and we're getting Jared Gordon in the UFC rankings. Oh yeah, let's go for that. That's the plan, boys. Right, I'm out of here. That was a goddamn great card. It was a great card. I'm going to go back and watch it all right now because it was phenomenal. You should go back and watch it too. It was a wonderful card. Also a wonderful stream. I want to thank everybody that joined me on the live stream. You guys made it. It was great. Because there were so many finishes and WMMA, there was a lot of downtime in the card as well. And you guys absolutely made it. It was wonderful. So thank you so much for joining me on that card. If this is your first time here, g'day and welcome. My name is Dougie, and I make an MMA video every single day of the week, Monday through Friday, and I try and go live at least 3 times a week. If you want to know when all of that happens, you hit that subscription bell down there, hit the notification button so you know when a video drops and you know when I go live. If you liked this video, leave a like. That helps the video grow. And if you're one of the paying members of the channel, unbelievable you are. Thank you so much. You're a bloody legend. And that's it. Until then, I'll see you in the next video. Everybody have a great week. Bye. Peace. Goodbye. See ya.